Oh, so how's it going, John? Oh, hey.
Meeting order, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion for this evening's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to public comment. If you would please provide your name and address. Name, okay. Communications. On to Andy.
Just picking up brush, and I'll be attending the Cornell Highway School. It's 6 or 7. That's it.
How much longer do you think you'll be on brush, like this week and next?
Yeah, probably 2 more. Yeah, and then maybe a day going back around and getting everyone that's called. And they said, yeah,
Sure.
You're doing a nice job. Excellent.
I heard from a resident on Parish Road, and how happy they were with
I've heard from several.
Is that the guy with that stump? I drove by that for a week and a half ago. What are they gonna do with that? And I saw your guys when they're out there and he said, we're leaving it.
someone wants furniture.
Yeah, it's you.
Michelle?
Yeah, so I appointed Jim Mursky as an uncompensated deputy clerk today because I will be out of town and he's just gonna do it until June 1st. And then just in case something comes up that he can help a marriage license he needs to do or something, if Bonnie needs the day off or something. So he's just gonna be helping out if needed. Tax collection is just about finished up. We're at about 97% in, which is the fairly standard percentage for the year, for each year. I've been in contact with credit card companies, working on getting credit cards in the office for people. Majority of it is that you've got to, the resident has to pay 3%, if they use a credit card, but I use it for court and nobody cares. I'm like, you can pay with a credit card, it's 3%, and they're always like, oh, that's fine. So I've noticed that people don't mind that. And other than that, we've had a lot of fishing licenses going out and heavy uptick in marriage licenses. People who waited because of COVID and now they're wanting to get it done.
Do they have to get married in Mendon if they get a license?
No, just in New York State.
They can just get their license anywhere.
You can get your license anywhere in New York State. If you're
Okay.
married in New York, yeah.
There's no other place you can get it except the town clerk. Can you get one at the county?
You can go to the county, you
County.
can go, most town clerks do them. But we've definitely seen a lot of, 8 or 9 just in this month,
Wow.
which is heavy for us. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. Sheldon couldn't be here this evening. Frank?
All right, there hasn't been any zoning board of appeals meetings since our last town board meeting. They've got one coming up on Thursday. Actually, Tom is going to cover me on there. I've got an obligation. Plan on attending the bid opening for the spray park this coming Thursday on the 12th. Back in April, I attended the Monroe Community Business Association, talked with 20 Deep there about, when we talked about last meeting, fellow town board members seemed agreeable to giving a letter of support for the grant. I just reminded them of the time for us to turn it around. Of course, that got other businesses interested speaking about grants. So they asked what could the town do. I offered to coordinate with anybody or to have them call town hall. And it's really a letter of support. So there was some confusion. They thought that the town might be spearheading it. And I said, no, no, no. It's a letter of support. That's what it would be if it fits in with the comprehensive plan. So if anybody asks, that's where it is. The next meeting is next Tuesday, and that's going to be at Rochester Junction. Mendon Foundation is is hosting that at that, it's the Green and White Building over there. May 21st, they have the beautification of the hamlet they're going on. They have coordinated with some scouting, local scouts, the school district robotics on NHS to help of the hamlet beautification. They also talked about June 18th and 19th is a community garage sale that Howard Hanna is putting on, trying to, well, have everybody come around, and they will, if they're looking to have like 18 people sign up, and they might have some businesses also with specials. So it's not in one area, but just driving around. Talked with the building and planning department. The solar farm, they still haven't, it's not live, and they haven't replanted the trees. Code enforcement officer was reaching out to them for an updated schedule, because we're where they're supposed to be up and running, just to get an updated schedule where it's gonna be.
They've already updated at least once, I think. haven't they?
Yeah, they have all the trees planted by the end of April of this year, and it was gonna be an up and running by then, so things happen, just, so we need an updated schedule, so I would hate to see them try and plant the trees in July.
Right.
You know, it just doesn't make sense. They actually might have missed the window here for planting trees. Oh, the yearly stormwater report's coming up, and it's due next month. So I would assume that the building department and highway department will have that together for, I think we have to, the town board needs to advertise that on the website, the draft. They also sent me a draft quarterly report and update. In here, I can forward the email to fellow town board members. Just some general of where things are going, like new building permits through April of this year was 18, which was down 30% from last year. What kind of building permits are there? 7 single-family dwellings, and then we have the Gascon Winery. They have some news about what they've been doing, including the MS4 report, training, whatnot. Let's see. Oh, on this Saturday at noon in Mendon Ponds Park, I have it written down as Girl Scouts, but the scout leader said boys and girls, they're going to be planting trees at noon. I plan on going over there, taking some pictures. Somebody else would like to go, more than welcome to come over. Hopefully we can get it up on the town website. For what they're doing, their commitment to the community, and maybe a letter from the town board that recognizing the girls and boys, what they've done. And Cindy and I have had some emails back and forth about comprehensive plan, continuing with where we left off with some low hanging fruit and some longer term projects. More to come on that. I think we should have some easy stuff that we can get done this year.
Karen?
We had an HPC meeting last Wednesday, and the folks there were asking for an update on all of the changes that they have recommended to the maps that they were looking at. Apparently, there were 55 recommendations that they had made that they would like to know kind of where we're going with that. So I told them I would get back in touch with them and let them know what the plan is. Our newest member started with us last week. She was pretty excited to be part of the team.
Okay.
Other than that,
Sunny?
For the library, a couple of things. They're beginning to work on their library, on their budget. Hope to, it will be well underway by the end of May, beginning of June. and to you by middle of August. They are forming 3 ad hoc committees, 1 long-range planning, 1 finance, and 1 policy committee. And the policy committee is the only one that will be ongoing. The other 2 we're going to just look at what they need to do with finances, what they need to do with long-range planning. And that long-range planning committee will have a meeting on the 18th. They said they understand they have to, advertise for open meetings, so they'll make sure that gets done. I'm sure they've already done it. And they are talking to the Friends about funding to open the library on 9 Saturdays this summer. Starting June 25th and going through August 27th, and they'll be open for 3 hours, 10 to 1. During the survey that they did, that was one of the biggest areas that people were interested in. They wanted to know if they could bring back some Saturday hours. They think the Friends have some money that they can use to fund that. And they also complimented the board and as well as supervisor for all of our efforts to work closely with them and our diligence and staying on top of things with them, what's going on at the library as well as the building.
As Rick said, I will be going to the zoning board meeting. He's gonna actually go be going to the planning board next week. Maybe a summer arrangement, but there hasn't been any meetings. As far as CP, they did not have a meeting this week, but they did show up at the festival on Earth Day in the green and just had a presence there. I haven't gotten filled in. I wasn't able to make it over to it, but I haven't been filled in by Patrick, but it was nice that they had a presence there. And they had some potted maps and answered people's questions. Actually, they were planning on having a computer there that they could call up people's properties if they had any questions about it. But that's it.
So one of the things I want to mention tonight is that Brent and I met with Emily, who's here tonight, and is on the agenda later on. So we had a nice discussion about grants, and I think Emily will kind of cover that a little bit further. I also met with the McCarthy family regarding Mending Green. So they live in, or Mrs. McCarthy lives in Pittsburgh, but she's just over the line next door to Mending Green. So I went out to the house and we walked the property, walked her property. We didn't trespass, but we walked her property, and both the daughters were there. And if you remember me saying, both daughters live not only in town, but they live in the village. So I've kind of developed a relationship with them because they're trying to talk to their mom about this whole project, and their mom's 91, so she understandably is kind of upset about this. So I spent a couple hours out there with the family. We did the whole ARPA. We did the webinar. All the filings have been done. There was a filing due at the end of April. So we haven't spent much money. Spent a little money on library things, but we have an extended period of time, and of course with the splash park, we want to make sure we've got that fully funded before we start spending money twice. We did our defensive driving course here for town employees, and especially for our highway employees. That was last week or so. It was well attended. I thought the gentleman who put it on did a nice job. And you may have heard the news that there's going to be a cut in sales tax for gasoline purchases. So I believe that they're gonna run it at $4 a gallon, or even if it goes higher than $4. Rick, you probably know more about this than I do, but hopefully we see a little bit of a break at the pump, and I think it starts June 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
It is June 1st,
Yes.
and it's the combination between the counties and the state's tax deferment, if you will, should be about 24 cents per gallon is what they're projecting. And to your point, John, you're absolutely right. They're going at $4 a gallon. It could be higher, it could be lower, but the county aggressively, is holding back the most that they are allowed to do by law.
Sure.
So,
So hopefully that's a reduction, but we've seen our sales tax uptick over the last few years. I mean, from what I've seen and individuals I've talked to, we're not seeing, any kind of slowdown in habits from individuals. So I don't really feel like we're gonna see a drop in sales tax revenue because of this, because we're already, gas at $4 is already almost twice of what it was a year ago.
Right.
Let's see. Got a letter from the Reading Corporation regarding stormwater at Mendon Green. Talked to Sheldon. We have a town-wide stormwater district. So our plan is just to encompass that into that district. Those people in those 30 houses will pay just like the rest of us. So there's no, to set up a separate one, we'd have to separate that piece of property from the town-wide one. I think it'd be a lot of work for nothing. So I got back to that and let them know. I'll be out of town May 19th through 25th. Deputy Supervisor Mirsky will be available. I will be in California. So if you have any, I'll still have access to the internet and all that kind of jazz. Hopefully I won't forget about the time change if I do contact you. Let's see. I believe, I forgot to mention this earlier, I believe somebody did an audit with Kelly.
Oh,
Yeah,
Tom and I
I'm
did.
sorry, yes.
Karen and I.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to mention that now.
Yeah, we go back. Karen Jenkins and Tom DeBlock and a lot of it, with Kelly from finance, and we found everything to be satisfactory.
Thank you.
Correct?
Correct.
There's two extra pieces of paper that you didn't get in the Friday's email. So they look like this. They look very similar. One is for 2021 and one is for 2022. And what I wanted to show you was the equalization rate. So in 2021, we were at 93%. That's what our assessments are versus what the state says our assessment should be. And in 2022, as you can see, we're down to 78%. So, and then if you look down at some of the other towns, you can see that everybody pretty much has taken a dip unless they did a reassessment. Like Rush did a reassessment, and who else did one? Henry. So everybody's kind of in the same boat. So at the last Monroe County Supervisors Association meeting, I talked about trying to get somebody from the state to come in and talk to the supervisors about this. And, as we've all seen, the prices for homes have just, skyrocketed all over, not only in Mendon, but all over. When I see what some of the stuff's going for, it just boggles my mind, but it is. And we've all seen interest rates. The Fed's raised the interest rate, I think it's up to 5 now, and they expect to raise it again, I think before the end of summer, another 0.5 point or more. So, where this is going, eventually things have got to slow down. As far as I would think that some people are going to be unaffordable if the interest rates continue to jerk off like this. And, but what I really would like to have somebody from the state, and I've talked to Jim Legret about this, is get somebody in from the state and really sit down and kind of analyze this and see, because I definitely don't want to get to a point where all of a sudden we do a reassessment and then the bottom falls out like it did in 2008 on the housing market, and all of a sudden everybody's overassessed. So I think most of the towns that I've talked to, everybody's kind of playing it cool for the most part. And if you saw that Parrington, they have reassessment in line. They had budgeted for it and got it going. And the new supervisor there, who's been in office 3 months, received a threat over voicemail regarding that. So it's a very, and I know Lima is just did one. So it's, there's a lot of chatter, so to speak, in the community as well as around the county. I wanted everybody to see that. I'm not asking you to do anything, but I think this is something we need to continue to watch because it's going to affect their star. Because the people in the town are no longer going to get 100% of the star on their school tax. It's going to be based on the 78%. So there will be, when the school tax bills go out in September, I'm sure there'll be a little chirping about that, as well as other things. But I really want to get a better handle on all this, because in order to do a reassessment, this town board needs to fund it. And it doesn't come cheap, because we've got to hire, Jim is part-time. We've got to hire like a consultant. I forgot what it cost us last time, but it was not cheap when we did one in 2017. And we get reimbursed. Generally, we get reimbursed by the state for like $1 a property that you reassess. Well, we've got 3,000 properties, so that's not going to go far. I just want everybody to be aware of that. You can compare us with some of the other towns in Monroe County, and I would just say that that's singular to our situation, but it's something to keep an eye on going forward.
Last recommendation from the state, how often you're supposed to reassess?
They would like you to do it, at least every 4 years. But there are towns down in southern part of the state that haven't reassessed in decades, like 25 years. So,
I just find it surprising that we dropped 15% on our level assessment. That's wow.
it's just, when you see a place go up for 200 and it's assessed for 180 and it sells for 300, that's what's doing it. So, it's a nice problem to have if you're selling.
Yeah.
Terrible title.
And a terrible time.
People are doing it.
Yes. Yeah. Last thing I wanted to talk about was the fish organization. So it's called Friends in Service Here. I was contacted, as was the mayor and the mayor Lima, Supervisor Lima, because this is the general area that it covers. And they are an organization that's been around since the 70s. Had a chance to talk to them. They're a little bit on the what's called experience side, mostly with the pandemic and everything. They are having some funding problems. So I've been working with them, talked to Sheldon. We're got an agreement with them to working on an agreement with them to help fund them for the rest of this year. I reached out to the Village Honea Falls, Village of Lima, Town of Lima, that maybe we could jointly fund them going forward. So what they do is they take people to doctor's appointments, treatments for various ailments, things like that. People who are don't have transportation, or they no longer drive, that type of thing. So it's really this organization has kind of operated, on a shoestring for decades, and really like to do something to help them out going forward. I think it's a great organization to have around town to help some of our individuals. And yet the last thing I want to mention is that my brother-in-law, who actually lives in Lima, he is the treasurer of that organization. Bruce Mayer was the treasurer. He was on, can't remember, it was the village or town board for a number of years, and Bruce recently passed away. So he took over as treasurer, but just in just for full disclosure, he was one of the people who were talking to me, as well as my neighbor Sally Zimmer and Mrs. Marge Vogt, who is currently the president of that organization. So we're looking at trying to keep them from going under in over the next couple of years, until they can maybe do some fundraising or do something like that. With COVID, they've just really struggled, and the drivers don't even ask for reimbursement for their gasoline, believe it or not. Found that very admirable, and really what they're paying for is the ability for somebody to call. They go through a call system downtown that then generates a call out to the various organizations around the county. So that's really what their big expenses.
I know the nonprofit organizations highly respect that we have this,
Yes,
because they give out their information all the time.
yes, they do. So
I think fish is very important.
Yeah.
We've had them for a long time.
Yeah.
They don't get the recognition. I mean, when COVID first came out, there was other places that popped up and then faded away.
Right.
And fish has been doing this since I can remember.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's very important now.
they've been a great, good community, that's for sure.
Can I ask a question regarding that organization?
Sure.
While we're on that topic, or I can wait, but is Fish part of a even larger organization? Are they a subset of a larger organization, or are they the sole?
They're pretty much a subset of a large organization. It's with
The New York State organization?
it's a county,
They do have a website. They do
Yeah,
have
they
a fish
do.
website.
I can
Okay.
send you some information.
So as I was talking to you before, there's a grant, there's a foundation that's providing funding. The letters of intent are due this Friday. Not available for municipalities, but is available for nonprofits. They do have to have a budget of $750,000, which is a lot of money. But if you're a parent organization with a lot of organizations under you, or if it's a state, this grant in particular particularly helps elderly with health assistance. So and they might not know about this grant, and if we can get that contact, I can certainly help them. It's a letter, that won't take very long, and then you get on a list, and if they approve you, then you get to apply for the minimum, I believe, is $750,000, but that would be, again, the parent organization who could then potentially divvy that out to the lower organizations. It's difficult with small communities. You're not going to have a nonprofit with a budget of $750,000. But if you have a parent organization for this grant within New York State, I think that could be a good fit. The other thing I would say is that this takes place in multiple counties. I don't know if it takes place or just in North County. All ARPA funding, the town was awarded funding, cities were awarded funding, the counties are awarded funding. There's a very small clause in there that people don't read, but all nonprofits are eligible for that funding. So they could also write a letter to the county, and particularly their county organization, letting them know what's going on and making a request for funding through ARPA. Those are just two.
No,
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. So that concludes my communications. We'll move on to supervisor's function report.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the supervisor monthly report for April 2022.
So we're in good shape financially. We've got 65% of our revenue, expense 29% of our expenses. We've got a couple of budget transfers that are pretty minimal this month. Other than that, we're in pretty good shape. DA, generally tends to trail in the amount received, as you can see, but a lot of that is for county work, and that work hasn't even started. So we'll, when that work starts, we'll see that number drop off as well. Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Town clerk's monthly report.
Motion to acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's monthly report for April 2022, showing receipts and disbursements in the amount of $3,498.12.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to minutes from April 11th.
We'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And we'll move on to vouchers.
Make a motion to approve all claims on vouchers number 22-291 to 22-360 on general ed strike. 22-05 in the amount of $70,536.34.
Did we skip the budget transfers?
Yeah.
Did I skip budget transfers? I'm sorry. Let me go backwards. Well, you want to finish this
I'll
one?
finish
it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Karen seconded.
You seconded? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Also like to acknowledge library vouchers numbered 22-053 to 22-066 on library abstract 22-05 in the amount of $6,903.65 that were presented to the town board for payment.
Thank you. And we'll go back to budget transfers and adjustments.
I'll make a motion to approve the following budget and adjustments from A 1410.410 to A 1410 to 1410.450 and from DB 5110.2 to DB 5110.4.
Any discussion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I forgot what the service contract was we were short on. Was it Williamson, I think? Your Williamson,
Yes, yeah.
your Williamson, that was the first one, and the second one is fuel. Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Off track. Now we're at number 11. I want to welcome our county legislator and village mayor, Richard Milne, to tonight's meeting for a little update.
Thank you. I really don't have anything planned, except my goal was to come and just let you know what I'm working on. It has been, almost 5 months into this position. And I say this very lightheartedly. Sometimes the amount of time is not clearly advertised. So it's been interesting, but I've been very busy. There are a lot of meetings that are called very last minute. And I find it interesting for those who work full-time jobs to but to be able to walk away from their employment at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to be at a meeting at 3 that you just found out about. So it's been very interesting, but it's been very rewarding. I have been appointed to the chair position of the Human Services Committee. I'm the vice chair of the Public Safety Committee, and I serve on the Transportation Committee. So Human Services really works a lot with the hospitals, the colleges, the various departments. I find a lot of the work we do is accepting grant funds, state and federal funds into the county. We seem to be accepting a lot of money in and then again, pushing that money out to the respective departments that they're for. Along with public safety, a lot of the discussion on the public safety realm is again, bringing money in and dispersing that to various emergency services departments, usually the police, our Monroe County sheriffs, but for different programs that we've had grants through the state or federal grants for a number of years, and they get updated often. Transportation, obviously, a lot of the road projects. Every month we're talking about what's on the next, what's being approved this month for major road repairs, bridge repairs, culvert repairs, et cetera, that the county's being involved with. So it's really been very interesting. I was also recently appointed to the 911 Operating Practices Board, which I served on as a mayor years ago. So it's nice to be back on that, but that again is working with the 911 Center and all the efforts that they have and all the programs that they have in place. And then also appointed to the Climate Action Committee for Monroe County. That I've only attended one meeting, but it's been very interesting. the efforts that this particular group has taken on looking at areas that maybe more composting can be done throughout the county instead of having to go to Henrietta or bring things to Henrietta or the eco park or wherever. Where else around the county could we create some nice composting areas? What type of programs can the county continue to push that will be eco-friendly and environmentally friendly for development, et cetera? So that group has really done a lot. And it's really interesting to try to kind of jump into some of these boards. The other thing I really just wanted to say to you is, number one, again, thank you for, allowing me to be here tonight. But I also want to ask you, is there anything I can do for you as your representative in the county legislature? And I'm not expecting an answer per se right now. Maybe there is something, but just know that I am here. I'm trying to get out to as many meetings as I can. I can't make it to a lot of the town board meetings or even some of the party meetings on both sides, but I'm trying to. It seems like there's meetings almost every night someplace. And, I have said multiple times that, long-term, things have to be sustainable. And wearing three hats right now, it may not be long-term sustainable, but I am enjoying it. So I just hadn't been to this meeting yet. And I wanted to, I've known all of you for a number of years. Certainly some more than others, but I am here. And so if there's any questions you have, and also while I'm here, I'm just saying, if there's any questions you have village related, I'm always happy to answer, and I'm always happy to attend a meeting. So, a couple of things that you brought up tonight, John, you were right on with the gas tax. And one point I'll bring up about that is that's a 6-month lowering, if you will. So after 6 months, that will be looked at again. So it could be extended. It may not be. The other thing was, again, with fish, John, you and I have talked about it a little bit, but just know the village will support you. We'll support that program as well. I agree. And Brent was right on. It's a very, very important project, very, very important group. So anything we can do to help, we will be there with you on that as well. So I'll entertain any questions if there are any, but I just wanted to say hello and ask if there's anything I can do. You all know how to get a hold of me, so please just ask. All right.
I'll only say that this is my 13th year, I guess it is, and first time to my recollection that we've had our county legislator at a town board meeting. So thank you very much. I
appreciate that. When I was running, the one thing I did say multiple times, and I continue to say it, I'm going to try to be as active as I can. It has been eye-opening, and it's a different form of government, right? From village to town to county. I've been called out a couple of times, and I'm not afraid to say this, on camera, if you will. There are those who think that you can't cross lines, and I've always said that when you're elected, you work for everybody, and I know you all agree with that and do that. We had I met with the Monroe County Sheriff and his team, and they said, we really would like, the legislators to tour once in a while, and especially the new ones. So, I set up a tour, and I was told, and I'm going to say this very clearly, I was told by both sides, if you will, that we kind of do this in separate groups. And I said, no, we don't. I'm going to be there with Democrats. I'm going to be there with Republicans, because we're all in this trying to work together. What we need to do. And I'm going to stick by my guns with that. People may not like it and know what I stand for. I'm going to try to do that and stand by those. And again, some people, that's all part of what we all do. But I am going best I can to serve everybody that I can. So if you need me to come to a meeting, if something that there's some legislation and again, anything I can do.
We appreciate that. So, this is kind of a nice lead into ESP Consulting LLC, update from Emily Columbus regarding our possible grant opportunities.
Hi.
Had a little bit of discussion about that, but
Yeah.
I know just, quite frankly, in a couple of phone conversations, meetings you were last month, I've already learned a lot from you. So I
Oh, good.
appreciate it because, as I mentioned to you on the phone, we don't have the expertise in-house. We, the few things that we try to get, a lot of times we get knocked out of the ballpark because of our median household income. And so having somebody like you who can wade through the water, so to speak, and make sure we're not just spinning our wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot what it was, but I remember one of my first years, I talked to this person and I was talking about a grant and they said, well, you don't qualify because you're median household income. And I said, well, we'll do it anyway. And then, maybe no one else will apply to your grant. I will literally take it from my desk and put it in the garbage.
Oh.
It's one less grant they have to read.
Yes. So needless to say that kind of sent a message to me early on is to say, wow,
It sounds like rural development.
yeah.
A lot of them. Well, thank you. And I just want to say thank you for working with me. And I want to make sure that you guys remember me and know you can reach out to me. We have right now a very temporary contract, but it's grant time and a lot is going on. So as you're hearing things, you can just feel free to reach out. Since our last meeting, the consolidated funding application did come out. That's the big New York State. It used to be 11 agencies. They've taken a few agencies out, and it's 8 agencies and about 30 different grants. And they've done it differently this year. They've actually split it into 2 books. And what you guys are probably familiar with, the Regional Economic Development Council, we're in the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council area. There are actually going to be a number of grants this year that they don't get a say in, or that those 20 points, it's actually all the agency and no longer the Regional Economic Development Council, which means the amount that they're grading is a little bit less. And there's some other new programs that are by region, which is interesting. So certain regions are eligible. Unfortunately, in some of these programs, it's the Finger Lakes that are not eligible. And those are a little bit more into the incubator issues, because we actually do happen to have a number of incubators in this area in Rochester I want to say Cornell, but yeah, Cornell Ag Tech Park in Geneva. So, and also just as an FYI, I'm on the Board of Assessment Review for the city of Canandaigua. And so you guys were, sorry, this is kind of a side note. Many communities are going through this assessment, and it's, the objective of the assessor is to ensure everyone's paying the same amount of equal taxes. But if this person's house is worth this much and this much, but they did actually, if you reach out to the county, and I just had to attend a training on it, they have really great 101 materials through the county, but I can also send it to you as well so that you have it. These issues, Supervisor, as you brought up, something that assessment of review and then the STAR impact, these types of things can very quickly, become something of interest to people in the public. And I got my start in the Monroe County Legislature. I'm the former Deputy Chief of Staff and Chief of Staff of the Monroe County Legislature over 20 years ago. But that's where I learned, being upfront with the education, knowing it's coming can be a lot more effective. And even if you wrote, Assessors 101, what does the assessment mean? Does this mean your tax is going up? Not necessarily. What, and just kind of a 4 bulleted thing that is just part of something, and do that education can be certainly helpful. And reaching out, to the state is great. Don't reinvent the wheel. They probably have that already. And it's just a matter of getting it to your residents to prevent that. Because that STAR, and in fact, I think there's another change in the STAR program, if I'm not correct, where you used to actually get a check in the mail, and now it's, some people get checks in the mail, some people get it taken off.
I think, Michelle, you know that.
Depending on when you bought your house.
Yeah.
You signed up for it.
And I just wasn't aware of that. And my first thing was like, oh dear, because if one neighbor goes to the mailbox and is like, I got my STAR check
Oh,
today, and the other person was like, what? So if they know ahead of time, FYI, from this year to this year, check your bill.
Yeah.
From this year to this year, look for a paper check,
If you haven't moved in many years, you're probably still gonna get it off your bill. But as soon as you move, then they kick you into that new system where you get.
It's a small change, but can cause a lot of, and if the community's ahead of it, it just helps.
Yeah.
And having a great clerk also helps.
My
So,
neighbor got a check, I didn't.
yes, that is what's going to. But so I just commend you for, recognizing, these assessments. It's when you see 15%, you're like, what? But, there are even communities that are postponing their assessment because it is so, for the same exact reason you said, this could go on and be crazy. And then we reassessed it and then they all dropped. It's very difficult. So I think navigating it and using the resources of the state are fantastic, and maybe even getting in line for the assessors, because everyone's going to need assessments. So if you're ahead of that curve, which you guys are, so that's great. So we had a meeting, we met. We couldn't have anyone else because I think we didn't want to have a quorum. But please know to feel free to reach out to me, ask questions if you're getting questions. But what we're looking at doing right now is identifying the priorities of the town. And the supervisor keeps a list on his whiteboard. It's like this. And I was like, I'm just going to take a picture. I'm not going to write all that down. And what my job is to kind of take a look at that and see what is realistic about getting funding. Are there a lot of sources? Are these eligible programs? And usually what I'm doing is comparing it to previous grants and the CFA. But what happened in that time is the CFA came out. So I have 300 pages to read, which takes a little bit longer for me to do your summary, but now I'm working with the best information. Engineering planning, amounts have increased, eligibility has changed slightly, so that when I recommend it, I can say, nope, your MHI won't work, or I can say, this is a great grant because it doesn't have MHI, because not all grants have MHI. So, so that's kind of it. That's where I am. Please.
You expand.
Median household income.
Just wanna make sure.
Yes, MHI, median household income. And now a lot of that, you'll hear that with community development block grants. It's got to be an MHI, but in reality, if you read the fine print, only 70% of all of their funding actually has to go towards MHI. So even if you're not in the MHI, you still can apply. And depending on how much money they have, decides your odds. So you're just kind of looking at it from different angles. Yep, CFA came out, and then I just want to make sure that you guys knew that I was available for questions. And if this fish organization, so it's I keep, hang on, I had to look it up. I don't know why this did not stick in my head, but it is I'm going to tell you this grant that is out there. Mother Cabrini, CABRINI Health Foundation. So I had heard about veterans in the spray park, and I was like, wait, let me try to fit those together. If that's a nonprofit, maybe we could apply under there, but we couldn't, it was too small. But then I'm hearing about this fish, and my brain is, okay, is there a parent organization? You can write a letter of intent. And I'm going to be doing that for another couple other organizations. So I would be happy to put that as part of my contract to help write that letter of intent. It's due this Friday. We'll just get her done. And get some organization, and then we at least get back from that organization to see if that's the kind of thing they'd like to fund. I can't imagine that it's not, but I've been wrong before. But and I like to come to meetings because then I can kind of put things together and be like, this actually can go here, this can go here.
I think
yeah.
Fish also run their local.
Local what?
They run a local food court. just so you know.
Okay, that would
So
be,
they're part of it. So what they,
Yeah.
what they told me is that those two have kind of gone in separate directions.
which would make sense.
Yeah, they've gone in separate directions. There's no problems, but like one group is kind of, the food cover is kind of detached officially from fish.
Most of the money that the food cover gets in, if I may, to your point, John, they can take the money in, but they can't give any money to fish. That's where that separation is.
It's funding streams. It's absolutely funding streams. 'Cause-
And to your point, you're absolutely right. They still work together, but they're not tied in as directly, but it's the funding thing that messes them
Yeah,
up.
because they can get funding probably from Food Link and money that comes down, from larger sources, but it's got to be for food. And in that same realm, this nonprofit that I'm looking at is really for health, not for food. Now I can make an argument that food is health. And what we might want to do is play with that a little bit. So thank you for letting me know that in the letter of intent and see where they bite. And if they're like, but we don't do food cupboards, fine, we can take out food cupboards. So kind of playing with that and learning. I haven't worked with this organization before, but I'm working with them on an application for Our Lady of Mercy in Rochester. But it's reputable and could be a good opportunity. You don't know unless you try. So, yeah.
So one of the things, Emily, I
Yeah.
want to touch on this.
Please.
Is that when you kind of think about having to go to that,
Ah.
falls.
Yes, I will. So there is a number of different state initiatives. You're gonna love this one. That is climate, and green. And you gotta be careful because that language starts to bleed together. There was a large program that came out from New York State called Climate Smart Communities. It's this huge initiative, municipalities do this and we'll give you grant funding. Well, it came out and it was great, but nobody did it because it was hard and it was really, how do you go from, oh, I'm so busy running a community, I'll just step over here and learn about climate and energy savings and start doing this. It's difficult. So they ended up coming up with a different program, which we called the appetizer of climate smart communities, and that was called Clean Energy Communities. And that identified 10 high impact items. And any community that hits 4 of these 10 high impact items automatically receives $5,000 without a match towards a clean energy initiative, which is as a grant writer, I'm like, you're going to give me $5,000 towards clean energy? Because that could be an upgraded fertilizer, that could be a roof, that could be solar, that could be windows. Clean energy and green energy. So it's very rare that a grant says, you did this, thank you, here's $5,000. It's also not a lot of money, but I like that one. So I had brought that one up. And so of those 4 high impact items, I'm going to recommend that the town work with that program. It's a very low hanging fruit program. And it kind of gets you, just put your toe in the water of clean energy and whatnot. But one of the things that counts as a high impact item is having your code enforcement officer attend a very specific training on the regulation of energy. And I haven't attended that training and I don't know anything about the regulation of energy, but I know that if your officer attends that training and he gets the certificate, you're going to get, now you only have 3 high impact items to get. And that actually then folds into now Climate Smart Community, which is the big program that never went away. And now they're going back to that. Also, Climate Smart Communities. You can tell when the state wants to do stuff because they put money towards it. For the Climate Smart Communities, they have identified regional representatives. They've broken the state up and identified a regional representative for every area for climate smart communities. And I bring that up, Mayor, so because you're talking about the composting, we are now going to have, and they might not be hired yet, it's that new, but there's actually going to be a climate smart communities person representative in our area who might also go help with that lift. Let's all take part in lifting the climate smart lift. But you can, that tells me that the state's going there. And now the grant for the climate smart communities, you don't have to be a climate smart community to apply. As long as you're moving towards it. Now, again, you'd only want to move towards that if your town that's what your town wants to do. You might be like, you know what, no thanks. And that's okay too. And that's what you want to weigh and say, if you're like, oh, we got a spray park. That's what we're going with spray park. That's all we can handle this year. And, you know, and you kind of weigh those odds and we'll take it from there. But that was the Clean Energy Communities is a much more smaller grant program that leads into a bigger one. But this high impact item, someone can attend this training. It's a great training put on by NYSEG, and then they get a better idea and can help when it comes to how are these energy things going to be measured and whatnot. So yes, I'm hoping they can come, and they don't have these trainings all the time. That's the thing. I haven't seen one in 2 years. So when I would be working with the community, be like, oh, did they go to the training? And they're like, what training? I'm like, oh, do it. Because all I got to do is say, here's the certificate. And they're like, oh, check. So then when I saw that come out, I'm just like, supervisor. So he's going to make sure I think it's June 4th. That's coming up. So that'll be a good one towards, you know, that's clean energy light. You know, it's a good place to go if you're not, you know, already. Go energy, go climate smart. It's a hard, and it changes daily. And take a look at solar. Solar was the biggest thing a year ago, and it was so expensive. And then these panels went from like this big, and now they're like this big. You know, so it's the technology changes very quickly. So you're not in a bad place if you're not running down that road either. Well, sorry, I went on.
No, let her-
When did the CFAs do this year?
This year, every year, July 29th.
July 29th.
Yes, they came out May 2nd this year, and they'll be due July 29th. So it's the last Friday in July.
I think we talked about a couple of things that maybe studies previously. So we would have to, well, up it's July 29th, we could probably do it July.
What's that?
We would probably have the environmental seeker or anything like that.
Yeah, we would do, if you guys wanted to move forward with doing a grant, like, when I do grants, it would be letters of support.
Yeah.
It would be a supporting resolution. Some of them, if they need seeker or don't need seeker, either way, we initiate seeker.
Yeah.
With a resolution, or we identify as a type 2 and say it's a type 2 and go from there. So yes, we would have that, and we could always hold a special meeting too.
You had mentioned something in our meeting about, what was it, sidewalk study?
Mhm.
We need the planning first for the sidewalk. Is that
Not part of the CFA.
not part of the CFA?
That is
was
the
part of the Finger Lakes Regional-
UPWP,
Okay.
Genesee, and that one actually goes through Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council. And then that one sets you up for the TAP grant, Transportation Alternative Programs through the Department of Transportation. And that is, DOT is not in the CFA,
Okay.
not even any part of it. Nothing. They don't play that game. They like their own rules. You better believe it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, yep. And I'll put that kind of in a timeline so we know we don't have to be worrying about this right now. We're not going to worry about TAP, which is implementation, until we've done planning. And we're not going to worry about planning if we have to be working about CFAs right now, and it's not part of that. We'll just-
It's still it's a pretty quick turnaround, 90 days, so we almost have. to-
Oh, the
we need
CFA?
to- We
Yeah.
need to start thinking
Oh,
about
yeah.
next year now.
Yes. Love that. Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, move on to number 13, which is a special town board meeting.
Make a motion to schedule a special town board meeting Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, for the purpose to review the bids for Spray Park and any of business for the board. 167 North Main Street, Huntington Falls.
So that's 7 o'clock.
Is that, yeah, that's.
7 o'clock, yeah, sorry.
We want to add that to the,
7 o'clock.
I'll second that.
yeah,
Any discussion? So as Brent mentioned, we're opening bids Thursday. This gives LaBelle a chance to review the bids. As I mentioned, I am going to be out of town for a wedding. So this was kind of the first day we could kind of figure out that it was good for everybody. Any other discussion? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to number 14, which is the New York Government Finance Officers Association attendance of the Men and Finance Director.
Make a motion for Finance Director Kelly Carmody to attend the NYGFOA Conference in Batavia, New York on July 21st, 2022. Cost of $80 plus mileage to be paid from account A 1310.410.
I'll second that.
So this is an annual event and, it's good for Kelly to go to this.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is number 15, purchase of 3 replacement computers.
So move.
There's a edit to this.
There is.
The decals computer did not get replaced. It was Bonnie's computer, the other clerk's computer. Now there's 2 up front. Yeah, it wasn't
Okay.
decals.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that. So if I just take out the word details, is that going to cover
Put deputy town clerk. Because mine didn't get replaced. yours did.
Okay,
it? My bad.
so it should read Deputy Town Clerk according.
According to our replacement schedule.
Okay.
And this talks about software also. I'm sorry, was there a second?
So I'll second.
Oh, who was the first?
I was.
Okay, sorry.
So the reason was we got a second.
Yeah.
So they're coming out of different budget lines. So building inspector, his computer is out of B fund. That's why that's separate, and the town clerk and the highway, and the deputy town clerk, excuse me, and highway clerk both come out of the A fund.
Okay.
And then the software is that software from the building department that is, Danny, you can speak of this much better than I can.
They want to be able to create editable PDF files, so they need the more expensive version than just reading PDF, which is free.
Right.
It's a little more detailed there, but
I think it's very important to have that in the building department as they're trying to bring us to modernization of the forms.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Anything that can make their life easier helps the town.
Much more efficient.
Yes. I think they were talking about doing drop-down selections too for some of the permits. So where people
Oh, wow.
don't, so like, what do people fill in? There's 4 choices.
Yeah.
It'll help people fill
Yeah.
them in.
I learned how to make a form with drop downs on the website for things.
Yeah.
I've been teaching, learning it, and it's kind of fun.
It is.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is far more.
still
efficient.
learning, but yeah.
It saves
It's self-taught.
confusion.
I think it'll be a good addition.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. This next number 16, as I mentioned, Sheldon can be here, and he called me late today and said that he was still wading through the changes that the state put through. So if we can just skip that one, I appreciate it. 17 is to rename a revenue line.
Motion to rename the revenue line A2705 from other revenue to military memorial for contributions.
I'll second.
So we did receive 2 checks from 2 different organizations directly to the town of Mendon, so we want to be able to deposit those and make sure that they're properly identified in the budget, as well as eventually, I would imagine we will receive a check from Legion Post 664 for the donations that came their way. So we wanted to make sure we had a appropriate place in the budget for that.
So I thought that we couldn't accept donations.
We can't ask, we can't solicit, but we can,
Oh,
but
okay.
people can give us donations.
But the people that gave us donations can't write it off because they gave it to us directly.
The tax implications, I'm not sure of. I mean, I know if they give it to the Legion, they're
Right.
a not-for-profit, so that's why we steered, plus they can ask.
Right.
They can ask for donations,
Right.
so. This was two groups relatively early on. It was before we engaged Lee.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Use of the softball field.
The motion to allow the men's storm to use softball field at Summer Road on May 11th, 2022.
Second.
So yeah, their application, they just want to use it for practice. A couple of nights. I explained to them, they can practice down there anytime they want, but it's first come, first served.
Right.
And of course, they would like to reserve it so that they don't have to worry about sharing with the area with anyone. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, Civil Service Conference.
I'll make the motion to allow the finance director, Kelly Parmalee, to attend the Civil Service Conference on May 10th, 2022 in Rochester. There's no fee for the conference other than mileage, which will be charged to account A 1310.410.
Second.
So Kelly's really done a bang up job with civil service. You know, she's only been here slightly over a year. And, you know, Mary took us from the Stone Age to probably the year 2000. And now Kelly's taken us right to the present day. When I first came, the people that were listed on our civil service as employees, I don't think there was one person that still worked for the town then.
Oh, gee.
So Mary and I worked really hard to get that updated, get people classified properly and that type of thing. And then, of course, since then, we have had multiple retirements, you know, and so when we hired somebody new, we had to make sure that it was civil service compliant and jump through all those hoops. And so that's where Kelly has really excelled. So she's I would just say that the Monroe County Civil Service lady came out and talked to us 2 months ago. And I thought one of the interesting things was she told me it was the first time she'd ever come out to a town and actually met with the town supervisor.
Yeah.
So I think most people kind of shy away from civil service as much as possible. But we want to be compliant, we want to do things right. So I give Kelly a lot of credit. She's worked hard on that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Public comment? Nothing, Dave? All right. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay, who can be my contact for fish? Yeah, perfect.